Anti-Semitism on college campuses reaching alarming levels all across America, with Jewish students increasingly reporting harassment, intimidation, and feeling unsafe at their own schools. While the Department of Education is currently investigating 60 universities for Title VI violations related to anti-Semitic harassment and discrimination.
The Trump administration has taken significant action against alleged anti-Semitism on college campuses, with President Trump signing that executive order outlining additional measures to combat the problem. Earlier this month, the White House hosted advocates who've been vocal about protecting Jewish students on campus, including our next guest. Eyal Yakoby, who's a recent University of Pennsylvania graduate who's been at the forefront of combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. Welcome, Eyal. Thanks so much for coming on. Before we hear from you, I wanted to play for our viewers a moment when you actually posed a question to the White House press secretary, and then we'll discuss what she had to say. Let's watch.
How exactly does President Trump will make sure that these universities are being properly held accountable and violent foreign nationals who are taking over campus buildings are sent back home?
If you violate federal law, you will not receive federal funds under this administration. It's very simple. If you allow the illegal harassment and violence against students of any race or religion on your campus, you will not receive federal funding. You are violating Title VI, which is federal law.
So what a moment, right? Maybe you could even speak to the fact that you were invited to the White House, and then also what you're noticing about how this administration is handling what's happening on these college campuses.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me on and being able to provide some clarity and insight into this historic moment, as I view it, of the White House actually inviting people to directly ask the press secretary questions. And it's a level of transparency that I don't think we've really seen ever before. And I think what's most refreshing about what's happening is the moral clarity that Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is able to speak to, that any American who's been watching the news can see the violence being perpetrated on our college campuses, where students aren't able to simply go study, and her being able to so clearly and with such moral clarity be able to say that this must stop. If universities are violating federal law, then they will no longer receive federal funding, is not only refreshing, but it's simply following the law, and it's something that the last administration just simply didn't want to do.
Yeah, Eyal, I know that you graduated from UPenn. Congratulations on that. But I know that it's a big achievement to do that. It's a big achievement to get into Ivy League schools. You can't pick up a newspaper or go online and read any news article without seeing what's happening to Harvard, right? So you see the White House tell you, look, if you violate federal law, you're not getting federal funding. It's one thing to say that, but then when you look at the headlines and see it's actually happening, for example, to Harvard, losing constantly federal funding to a point where they're really pushing back with now lawsuits against this administration. What goes through your mind when you see that someone actually coming through with their word?
I think it's what President Trump ran on. He ran on that promises are going to be made and promises are going to be kept. And throughout the entire campaign cycle, and I was on the campaign trail with now President Trump, and throughout the campaign, he spoke about how he would be holding these universities accountable. He warned them ahead of time. And once he assumed office, he followed through on exactly what he said. And I think what it ultimately speaks to is people want to make this about free speech. But then every week we see another building takeover. We see another class being canceled. We see another police officer being sent to the hospital because these violent extremists are assaulting them. And so all that President Trump is doing is telling these universities that if you do not follow federal law, then the taxpayers will no longer subsidize the extremism and radicalism being brewed on campus. And now we see the DOJ actually investigating Harvard University for also violating the Supreme Court decision of admissions that follow DEI and not merit. And so I think it'll be very interesting to follow that and see what comes about.
Yeah, I just thought it was so interesting. I mean, in college, don't students have, tests to study for? And don't they want to just hang out with their friends in a more social manner? Instead, you're